The federal government has targeted funding for higher education. Why is this happening and what's to come? I'm Gretchen Fletcher.
And I'm Libby Litchfield.
And we're here to give you the details on what's happening in the educational sphere. The Trump administration has recently targeted funding for dozens of universities, claiming they hold racial preferences in their educational and extracurricular programs, which are widely referred to as DEI or Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion measures.
These cuts are primarily threatening grant programs such as TRIO, which assists low-income, first-generation, and disabled students, and are a part of a larger budget plan to cut back on non-defense-related spending. The Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, OCR, stated these policies put primary focus on skin color while overlooking merit and accomplishment.
The OCR hopes these budget measures will prompt institutions to end their illegal discrimination and has already launched civil rights investigations into multiple top universities, such as Cornell University and Northwestern University. DEI policies, however, are not the only factors playing into these budget cuts, as various reasons have been cited for these freezes.
Harvard University, for example, had over $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts withheld when its president, Alan Gerber, refused to obey the Trump administration's demands following pro-Palestine demonstrations on its campus. The administration has claimed that these rallies are anti-Semitic and that funding cuts will ensure tax dollars don't support racial discrimination.
On the other hand, Princeton University had grants suspended with seemingly no reason. However, just before the halt, University President Christopher Eisgruber expressed his discontent with the threats facing Columbia University, which was the first major university to be threatened. These cuts have been overwhelming to both staff and current or prospective students, and their effects are beginning to take root throughout the nation.
As with almost any other current issue, America's major political parties have taken opposing viewpoints on these funding developments.
While the majority of Republicans hold great value in higher education, they still generally support the actions being taken by the Trump administration. Accountability is their foremost concern with educational institutions, and they believe these funding freezes will prompt universities to reevaluate their unfair DEI policies. Many Republicans also believed the cuts will help rein in the runaway government spending that has characterized our bureaucracy for decades, an added benefit to an already pressing issue.
Democrats, however, generally agree that these funding cuts are detrimental to our country, threatening years of progress towards equal access to education. Many also believe these actions will hurt the United States' status as a leader in global technology, and they could potentially bar bright students from pursuing higher education. 75% of Democrats voted in support of maintaining federal funding for scientific and medical research, while only 7% favored withholding funds if the institutions refused to comply with President Trump's terms. Furthermore, polls show that Democrats largely support services for underrepresented groups, such as scholarships, mentorships, and DEI programs, and see these funding suspensions as direct threats to educational equality.
The dependence of higher education on the federal government has become strikingly apparent, and affected universities are finding unfortunate ways to navigate through these suspended funds. Staff are being laid off, university administrators are taking voluntary pay cuts, students are fearful for the loss of tuition aid, and research ventures are being postponed.
High schoolers, especially those interested in STEM fields, are reevaluating their college lists, as the high-level research and technological prestige of many universities is facing an uncertain future. The impact of these funding suspensions is making its way into the lives of students and staff alike, but much of the shock has yet to settle in.
While it's hard to nail down the expected outcome of these cuts, we can assume that at least some of the schools involved will have to shut down operations. Scientific discoveries will likely halt, as the establishments carrying out higher-level research may no longer be able to sustain their expensive endeavors. Furthermore, enrollment numbers could possibly drop, as students who benefit from DEI measures may no longer be able to fund their education.
As always, bipartisan factions are warring over the Trump administration's actions, and peace between the parties seems unlikely. Overall, the future of higher education in the United States is unknown, but we can infer that these funding freezes will result in major difficulties for students and staff. Once again, I'm Libby Litchfield,
And I'm Gretchen Fletcher.
and we hope this broadcast deepened your understanding of the current relationship between higher education and the federal government. Thank you.